We are the Meltdown, and we're here with yet another retro trailer reaction. This series looking to reintroduce and put the spotlight on some notable movies from previous years. All of the choices featured within this series have been hand-selected by our Meltdown crew. Some of these selections include some of us completing first-time watches, and some include those timeless classics that we've seen time and time again. Join us throughout all of Season 1 as we look at the retro trailers and the discussions that follow. Today's entry is 2003's Oldboy. Oldboy is a South Korean film that attained critical acclaim and accolades worldwide, including winning the Grand Prix at the 2004 Cannes Film Festival, where it notably garnered high praise from Quentin Tarantino, who was the president of the jury. Oldboy was directed and co-written by Park Chan-wook and told IndieWire, quote, "When the original manga was offered to me by the producer, I didn't like the ending. There was no story about the incest, and the motivation of the villain was totally different. I ended up signing the contract anyway, which looking back was a very reckless decision because I had no plan for how to change the ending. I'm glad that I ended up coming up with a good idea on how to change it, but if I didn't, it would have been a big problem. It's a decision I wouldn't make these days, how young I was back then." Film critic Roger Ebert gave the film 4 out of 4 stars and stated that Oldboy is a, quote, "powerful film not because of what it depicts, but because of the depths of the human heart which it strips bare." So with that, let me introduce our panel. I am Meltdown host Tim Melton. That is my co-host, Mr. John Lunsford.
Does a grain of sand really sink the same as a rock in water? Find out today on Mythbusters.
Our producer is Tyler Johns. Okay, and we also have cherished Meltdown contributor Rockstar, who you see daily on the next round.
What happened?
I don't know.
What happened?
I was trying to make the face at the end, and it didn't work.
I didn't see your face. My God.
I thought you were having a medical issue. I was very
pulled
concerned.
a Deshaun Foster.
Ooh, that was as intense as the movie for sure. This film was Tyler's selection. Tyler, why did you pick 2003's Oldboy?
So this is just a movie that you really can't forget after you've seen it. It is anything but disposable. The cinematography is incredible. I think the composition within the shots is also incredible. And also, you said I couldn't add any anime in the bucket, so I went with an adaptation of a Japanese manga. So couldn't put Perfect Blue in, so went with Oldboy.
It absolutely is a legal pick here. When I told him no anime in the bucket, he about lost his mind, but thankfully he was able to get Oldboy into the bucket. So without any further hesitation, let's now go ahead and see the retro trailer for Oldboy. So while I stated it was the retro trailer, obviously the re-release trailer from about a year ago, but still is a captivating trailer nonetheless. That's the trailer from this point on. We'll be including spoilers for Oldboy in our discussion points, so if you'd like to watch the movie first and come back to us, feel free to pause this video now. As we saw in parts of the trailer, an obnoxious drunk is bailed from the police station yet again by a friend. However, he's abducted from the street and wakes up in a cell where he remains for the next 15 years, drugged, unconscious, when human contact is unavoidable, otherwise with only the television as company, and then suddenly released. He is invited to track down his jailer. So, John, what is your take on Oldboy? This is the first time you got a chance to see this movie.
That is correct. I didn't really know what this movie was 21 years ago when it came out. I remember when the Josh Brolin one was promoted about a decade ago, and I remember being just intrigued enough, but knowing this movie is probably too much for me. I have way higher tolerances now than I did back then, as you well know. But I'm glad that I'm glad that I never watched that one. I'm glad this is my first foray into Oldboy and the story of it. I very much enjoyed this movie. I thought it was very, very well done. I'm trying to think of a way to say this without using the word respect, but I do think the movie
hold in high regard.
I do think the movie
High esteem.
Yeah, because I say that with older movies, and being 21 years old, I'd say this is getting now into older movie, however old that makes us feel. But there's some certain choices that I can tell were of the moment of when this movie was made that nowadays I feel like are not choices that would be made from an editing standpoint, from the little bit of CGI that's in there that's very cheap looking. The one thing I could not stop watching was because I had seen this before going into it, but everybody had made a comment about the hammer scene, like when I looked it up online and everything, and it is a well done kind of one shot scene through the hall. I thought the cinematography on it was really good, but I couldn't get my eye off the CGI knife in his back the entire time.
It is very distracting.
It's so distracting if you actually look at it. If you just watch the fight, you probably don't even notice it's a CGI knife. But if you watch the knife, you could tell it's a CGI knife that's floating around with his back as he moves. The ants, just little things like that like now if that movie was done, would probably be done flawlessly and you would never even know it. But I get it for back in the early 2000s. That's kind of how CGI was in those movies. So that's part of what took me out a little bit that I didn't quite enjoy. I did like a lot of the cinematic choices. The editing in this, sometimes the choices they made in editing was incredible. And then sometimes the choices they made editing was like, what the hell are you doing with that cut to this certain thing? Or you cut off this too quickly. And I feel overall the movie was way too short. I feel like this movie would have benefited from being a 3-hour long epic story instead of being just a 2-hour long movie. That's, once again, not to say it's bad. I think I give it 4 out of 5 stars on Letterboxd when I went through and reviewed it after I watched it. And I know it's one that a lot of people hold in high regard, which is why I didn't wait till I usually wait till the day before we do it to watch a movie. So I kind of remember I watched it instantly the minute it was pulled from the bucket, because I was like, I know this is one that people hold in high regard, and it's considered one of the greatest movies of all time by a lot of people. And I totally get people that say this is one of the greatest movies ever made. I would not go quite that far, but I totally get the people that do go that far. And a good twist in it, a twist that I already knew.
Good? Is it a good twist?
I'm saying just
Okay.
I'm not saying the actual twist itself.
An unexpected twist.
I'm just saying it's from a cinematic standpoint. It's very well done. But I already knew what it was just because, once again, it's been 21 years.
Here's what the world wants to know. Did they get the incest right? Because that's what you hold, you're very critical of Game of Thrones for certain situations where they either do or do not get the incest right. Do you feel like they got it right here?
Yes, question mark? I'm
Okay.
terrified to answer that question.
All right, pivoting. What edits, what cuts were you not a fan of in this movie? I'm just curious because I think I might agree with you.
There's some things in this that I did like in terms of the violence cutting away, because I'm not a person who likes overly violent movies. This really and truly not an overly violent movie from what you actually see. From what you know is going on, it's rough. You know teeth are getting pulled, but you never actually see a tooth get pulled. You see the beginning of one tooth starting to get pulled and a little blood, and it cuts cuts past that to where the teeth have been pulled. He cuts his tongue out, but it cuts off to where you're not actually watching the.
You hear it.
You hear it, but you're not seeing the actual in-depth his tongue cutting out. That's the kind of thing I don't want to see. But that's the kind of thing you could just basically show every single aspect, and I'm okay with that as a person who doesn't like the blood and gore aspect of things. There's certain cuts I don't remember specifically. I have actually written more notes in this than I've ever written for a movie before because I tried to go through as I was watching it and kind of see, because it's one that Tyler was like, yeah, screw you, John, you got to watch Oldboy. And
I was honestly expecting the teeth pulling scene to get you and make you just go like, what did he pick? Why do I have to sit here?
This is why I don't believe John's violence threshold is a real thing.
But you didn't watch every tooth get pulled.
No, it doesn't. But I've never heard
It's
you have a movie
implied. I was still
It also
gripping the
is
couch
implied.
when that scene was playing, and
never-
I've seen the movie.
And it's a very psychologically intense movie.
Right.
But it's not like a blood and gore fest movie that, like a Saw, that's just trying to go over the top just for the sake of going over the top. Like the psychological aspect of it doesn't bug
I
me.
think there's a lot of parallels between the violence in this and the violence in Saw.
I would agree with you,
So
Tim.
before you start making those comments, maybe watch Saw.
I ain't going to see
Let's
Saw.
go to Rockstar. Rockstar, what are some of the elements? Saw's going in the bucket next time.
Saw
Rockstar.
6, that's where it really gets good.
If anybody's
Oh, is that
hiring, let me know.
backwards hat, John Kramer?
Okay, Rocky.
Yes.
What are some of the elements you liked and disliked about Oldboy?
I liked one thing I liked. I had to look it up because I want to make sure. When I was watching it, took me 2 viewings to finish it. But when he's waking up in Miso, whatever, her apartment, and she's reading his journals, and he freaks out and jumps off the bed on the floor, and then he goes back to his bed and nails his head. You see that, like, he literally nails his head on a box, and they said that wasn't meant for, like, that was truly an accident, but he kept acting, and so did she, like, because they wanted to get the cut. I was like, because Robin was like, there's no way that was in the script. Again, I am not a fan of Leonardo DiCaprio in The Revenant. Everybody said, dude, it's amazing. He eats a raw fish. Homeboy ate a raw octopus, live octopus.
Yep.
Didn't get any Oscar nods for that. But I saw the Josh Brolin one first, and in 2014, whenever it came out, and it was deeply disturbing because I had no idea, what the twist was going to be. It was rough. This one is better told, and I think it was better acted. It's more effort was put in because it's the original. But I really did enjoy it despite the fun twist that Lunsford was talking about.
Yeah.
But I do like the way they delivered the twist and everything. The delivery, I love the fact that it's just names. His best friend's name was too close to the bad guy's name. They both started with J. So whenever I saw the J on there, I was like, okay, is that his best friend?
Yeah.
And
There was Ju Huan, that was the friend, and
I
then
thought-
Wu Jin was the
Jin.
bad guy.
I thought after House of the Dragon that I was prepared for
Yep.
really difficult names in a movie, and I was not in going back through this again.
But since Tyler's the professional on this film, on the scene where they find out about the sister and brother relationship, and they're talking to the friend on the phone at the computer cafe or whatever, and he starts to go on the story, and you see Kwai Jin, whatever his name is, listening in, but then he puts his headphones down and then comes. I thought he was in a different location, but then it's like he's on the next row, the row over, and then he's just stabbing him. Like, I thought that was kind of odd. Were they trying to misdirect you, like thinking he's in like another venue listening to the conversation, like a wiretap, but then he's literally from me to John in the same
I
venue.
do think it's kind of like a plot twist of like, oh, he's actually sitting right there.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But like overall, I really did like it. Like, I didn't think I was gonna like because Josh Brolin was like, ugh, but I liked it.
I'm probably the coldest on this movie out of everyone in this room.
I
me,
am shocked that John is a bigger fan of this movie than you are.
It's the truth. For me, it's the genre. I'm not a big fan of the revenge genre. And I think, Tyler, it's got a soft spot in your heart. I mean, you
It
saw
absolutely
Monkey Man
does.
earlier this year, and it's got very much Monkey Man, you can tell, has seen Oldboy. I mean, there's a lot of
100%.
things. There's a lot of revenge movies that this movie paved the way for in the things that it accomplished. And so, while I respect it, John, I
So
don't.
why do you hate it?
I don't love this movie. This is not something that holds a special place in my film history. It's not. I saw it early on because of all the hype around it, and it was almost like one of those, oh, you got to see this movie. Like, you got to see it.
It
You
was too
got to see
hyped
it.
up for you by the time you saw it.
It was a little bit too hyped up, and to me, at the time, Kill Bill was more of something that I was interested in. To me, when I got around to this movie, Tarantino obviously loves this movie because Tarantino loves the genre. I don't love the genre of this movie, and it does hurt it
Well,
Because-
Tarantino's also called this one of his favorite movies of all time and a perfect
Fully
movie.
believe that.
Yes, this is a movie that he absolutely loved and championed there at Cannes. The hallway fight scene, it's iconic, and anytime it pops up, whether it's on YouTube or whatever, it's worth watching. It's worth hitting play on. The acting in this, I think, is incredible. This movie doesn't work without the acting performances you get, and while it doesn't have any Hollywood A-listers in it, that does not take away from the fact that it should be championed for how great the performances are, truly. The fact that people are still talking about this film more than 20 years later shows the significance of it. It wasn't just the hype train. It wasn't just of the moment like a lot of movies are, and then no one talks about them for decades to come. This is a movie that still has a loyal following, and I very much appreciate that. Things I wasn't wild about, the CGI certainly does not age well. John, you brought that up in one of your big things. I didn't see the 4K remaster re-release in theaters in 2023, but maybe they cleaned up some of that CGI, or maybe they left it in to try to have it be sort of a time capsuled sort of experience. I'm in the minority, but the film feels a little repetitive and overindulgent to me. I actually feel like at certain points it drags a little bit compared to wanting it to be 3-hour epic. I want it to kind of, how many more times do we need to see teeth being attacked in this film? For me personally, I think it's a little bit over the top. The Spike Lee 2013 American reimagining that we've talked about, that Rockstar, that was his first entry into this, it's garbage. And it hurts, I think, the overall history of Oldboy, the fact that it even exists. So that's not this film's fault, but I think it does sort of, show how this film got things right that the 2013 movie didn't do. But I think it lessened the property as a whole, because when people talk about Oldboy, they have to verify which version of the film they're talking about.
We're about to get there with Parasite, by the way. That's about.
Are we? We're about to have an American Parasite?
That's about to happen. They worked on a TV show, then they're starting to work on an American movie, and the same thing's going to, I fear, happen with that. Because I feel like Parasite, for me at least, got me into Korean cinema, as opposed to what I know from Japanese, what I know from Chinese. There's certain aspects of that got me into that. And so it's like, Oldboy is the one I always hear about. I'm glad I've gotten to watch that now. But all I hear is that aspect
Train
of
to Busan, even.
2013's Oldboy. That was garbage. So just don't watch any of it. And it's like, hold on, I still want to go watch the original.
Tyler, with this film being your selection, you get the final word on Oldboy. Anything that you want to remark about that's already been said, anything you want to add, your final stamp of Oldboy, take the floor.
I think this might be the best revenge movie ever made. This is top 25 movies ever made for me. It is just brilliantly told. The just amount it takes you into the psyche of the characters and breaks you down along with Odesu. He gets absolutely broken down in this movie. The ambiguous ending, it's just fantastic. One thing I like about this over other revenge movies, even though I love Kill Bill, we'll see how much I love Kill Bill later. But
Oh my God!
Gosh, another spoiler alert for the bucket.
I watched the TBS version. Is that good enough? Anyway,
it is not.
John, Tyler's trying to
TBS
test
was
you.
hurt.
You came in with a peace offering today, and he put it under his boot and said, "No, sir." And you're waking up in a trunk in the middle of a valley right now, wondering what the hell's going on.
I don't know if I can do that one. Anyway, continue.
But yes, I like this over other revenge movies because both the protagonist and antagonist are out for revenge against each other. They both seem to get it, and both aren't happy with what happens after. The main antagonist, he just gets so overwhelmed by guilt and the loss of his sister, his involvement in her death, that he takes his own life. And then Odesu has to live with the memory of knowing the twist now and trying to get that removed via hypnotism.
We've done a very diverse catalog of films here on Retro Trailer Reactions, which is the thing that I actually like the most. It's opening us all up. We're all taking it seriously. We're all following the assignments. We're all being a part of the discussion. Jaws was one of those films that was looked at as being better than its source material. It enhanced its source material. Mm-hmm. The book is not nearly as good as the movie, according to most people. Do you agree that the movie Oldboy is much better than the source material it was adapted from?
So I haven't read the manga for Oldboy, but I don't hear it mentioned nearly as often as the movie.
Yeah.
And
I feel like it's universally accepted that the movie is looked at as being the premier version of that story compared to the manga itself.
Yeah, I would think so, because whenever you bring Oldboy up in conversation, nobody ever says, "Oh, well, have you read it?" It's always, "Have you watched it? Have you seen that hallway corridor scene?" Right. And that's just not the case for a lot of manga adaptations. So I'm really glad it's the case for this one, because it just elevates the genre and elevates the material to a point where it has global appeal.
And everyone knows, back when one of our founding fathers wrote about quick change and it being adapted there by Bill Murray, that the movie version is looked at as being the better version.
Oh, of course.
Of that, yes.
Yes. So much that Ron Howard turned it down.
Yeah. Once again, a diverse list of movies here. Oldboy, a very diverse entry, and we appreciate Tyler bringing that to the conversation. When it comes to the production of this film, the corridor fight scene, it took 17 takes in 3 days to perfect, and they went with one continuous take throughout this. I know you're a sucker for that type of cinematography, John.
I am, and I remember one of the edits I didn't like, and I think this is me post Winter Soldier going into now, and I know it's a random movie to bring up, but one of the best scenes in all the MCU and one of the better scenes in movies is the elevator fight scene that happens in that. He goes to that entire hallway scene, and at the end of that, the elevator opens up, and there's a whole bunch more thugs in there, and then it flashes to, oh, he killed them all too. All right, anyway, we're moving on. It's like that. You talk about putting the absolutely over the top of what was already a really cool hallway scene. Now I get back in 2003, and it was just a normal small elevator. That probably would have been a very hard scene to do as opposed to watching it in Winter Soldier. But that kind of made me want that scene even more when it completely skipped past it. It's like, that would have been the even cooler part to watch. That was something that I remembered of like one edit. Man, I would have loved to have seen that fight too. I guess you can't have all the fun. Anyway, moving on.
There are some movies where a sequence happens and you're like, man, I'd love to play that sequence in a video game. Mm-hmm. And that hallway sequence is that. It definitely has sort of that 2D side-scroller sort of feel to it. The scene with the octopus being eaten alive, as Rockstar mentioned, not computer-generated, that scene, which I think makes the other scenes stand out so much, the fact that they went with the real deal here with the octopus in that. 4 were used during the filming of this scene. The eating of squirming octopuses as a...
Octopi.
It's better than using the James Bond term. Yeah. As a delicacy, exists in East Asia, although it's usually killed and cut, not eaten whole and alive. If you were to Google the gross of this film, this was a hard movie to track down actually how much money it's made, because the box office receipts are so wildly different. But Google says Oldboy has grossed a total of a little over $17 million worldwide, and I'm going to go with Google here as the official source.
Assuming it didn't get a big release here.
It didn't, but it got a big re-release in 2023, as we mentioned, with that 4K theatrical re-release by Neon here in the U.S. It grossed around $1 million. So it did pretty well for a re-release, a South Korean film that drew some people in there. And that's what you need to know about Oldboy. Is this a movie you appreciate all these years later? Let us know in the comment section below, and make sure you take a look at our title sponsor, John, MyBookie.
MyBookie.ag, promo code next round. You see it right there. Go use promo code next to my Culver sauce right there. Go to I thought that was off camera. Go to MyBookie.ag, promo code next round. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere in that sportsbook, that casino, that live casino. Hey, the dumplings there, that's just my version of it, is eating some Culvers here.
Good save.
And, yeah. Anyway, go to MyBookie.ag.
Absolutely. This has really turned into my favorite thing I think that we do, and I really appreciate all of our contributors and all of you that watch along. If you've missed any of our previous retro trailer reactions, there's a whole catalog of them from season 1. We hope you will join us on this journey as we are fastly approaching a season 2. I think we are going to be there by the end of the year. So we only got a couple more months here of the season.
At least we'll hopefully get through all of Tyler's movies in the first season.
That's the hope. I think Rockstar's only got 2 choices left. All right. We'll be back. More retro trailer reactions. Make sure you subscribe here to The Meltdown so you don't miss them.